Hello, and welcome back once again to Jeff Finnegan's Wake. Infinite Jeff, the project where I, Jeff, read the book Infinite Jest, blah, blah, blah. Just knocking this one out real quick before work. So, let's just get right to it. This is page number 397. Here we go. Seemed, except Avril, to whom the Oriental choreographer had cottoned right off, balletic and full of compelling little cornerings and near misses and reversals, and the theater's audiences rapt and clearly entertained to mouthful of spit, bleh, and clearly entertained to the gills, because they keep spontaneously applauding, as much maybe for the film's play choreography as anything else, which would make it more like spontaneously meta-applauding, Hal supposes, because the whole fight scene has to be ingeniously choreographed so that both combatants have their respectively scaly and complected backs, footnote 155, to the audience, for obvious reasons, except as the shield and little mirror get whipped martially around and brandished at various strategic angles. Certain members of the playlet's well-dressed audience eventually start catching disastrous glimpses of the combatants' fatal full-frontal reflections and instantly get transformed into like ruby statues in their front-row seats, or get petrified and fall like embolized bats from the balcony's boxes, etc. The cartridge goes on like this until there's nobody left in the Ford's Theater's seats animate enough to applaud the nested narrative of the fight scene play, and it ends with the two aesthetic foils still rumbling like mad before an audience of varicolored stoned. The Medusa versus the Odalisque's own audiences didn't think too much of the thing, because the film audience never does get much of a decent full frontal look at what is about the combatants that supposedly has such a melodramatic effect on the Rumble's live audience. And so the film's audience ends up feeling teased and vaguely cheated, and the thing had only a regional release, and the cartridge rented like yesterday's newspapers. And it's now next to impossible to find. Ooh, maybe it's worth money on eBay. But that wasn't by any stretch of the imagination the James O. Incandenza film that audiences hated the most. The most hated Incandenza film, a variable length one called The Joke, had only a very brief theatrical release, and then only at the widely scattered last remains of the pre-interlace public art film theaters in arty places like Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Berkeley, California. And Interlace never considered it for pulse order re-release for obvious reasons. The art film theater's marquees and posters and ads for the thing were all required to say something like, "The Joke. You are strongly advised not to shell out money to see this film." Which art film habitués, of course, thought was a cleverly ironic anti-ad joke. Oh, is this still a novel concept? Somewhat 96. It's adorable. And so they'd shell out for little paper theater tickets and file in their sweater vests and tweeds and dirndls and take up on espresso at the concession stand and find seats and sit down and make those little pre-movie leg and posture adjustments and look around with that sort of vacant intensity. And they'd figure the tri-lensed Bolex H32 cameras, one held by a tall, stooped old guy and one complexly mounted on the huge head of the oddly forward-listing boy, which with what looked like a steel spike coming out of his thorax. The big cameras down by the red-lit exits on either side of the screen, the patron's figure, were there for like an ad or an anti-ad or a behind-the-scenes metafilmic documentary or some... Okay, we end on a hyphen. Ooh, but we get to more of the... Yeah, anyway, whatever. That's page number 397. Almost to page 400. Cool. Have a great night. And I love you.